Hello, let's learn about Docker container. So earlier we learned about Docker images. So Docker images actually included the application code, all the runtime and all the libraries and dependencies. So we have packaged everything, but it is still not running. So we have to run it as a container. So a Docker container is nothing but a running instance of a Docker image. So in image, we have a blueprint of what we need to run, and container is nothing but the living running process which is created from that blueprint. So I have the Docker desktop on my machine. So let's run some containers. So let's go to my CLI. So let us run. Let us check if we have any images here. So we don't have any images running here. So let's run the nginx image. Okay, so the command here is, okay, so first of all, to run it as a container, we need an image. So we can specify the name as an image here, and we can specify the name of our container which we want here. And we can -d means we have to run this container in a detached mode, and we have to run this on this specific port. So what does port mapping means? The first one is the port of the host, which is our machine, and is the 80 is the port number on which this container is running. Okay, and we can give any name for that. So let us run this command. Okay, so docker run it in a detached mode. Let us give it a name. Let us give it the same name, nginx, and it is running on port. Let's run it on port 9000, and it the container port is 80, and the name of the image which we are going to download from the Docker hub is this one, nginx. Okay, so let us run this. So it is trying to find the image if it is present locally. If it doesn't find the image, it goes to the Docker hub and downloads that specific image. Now you can see the image is downloaded successfully also, and it is running. Let us check if the content is running or not using docker ps command. Now you can see here this specific container is running, and you can see here that it is created 40 seconds ago. The status is up here, and it is running on the host port of 9000, and the container port is 80. So I ran this on my local desktop. Okay, you can see on this specific 9000 port, we have this nginx running. So can we create one more container for using the same image? Yes, we can do that, but for that we have to use a different port number. So for example, now if I want to have one more container running with the same image, I can use a different port number. And since this image is already downloaded, it won't take much time. You see. Okay, so I guess we are having issue here. Okay, I think we have to use a new other name for this. Okay, so we can use, let's say, nginx2 here, and we can see this container is. Let us check again docker ps, and you can see we have two nginx running. One is running at port 9000, other one is in 9001, but it is both are using the same image, the different container. So let us check this out. Let me duplicate this, and let me just put it as 1001. You can see here, for this one is running on port 9000, and this one is running on port 9001. Okay, so can we, how to stop this container? So to stop this container, you can use stop. Either you can mention the name of the image, or you can just mention this id, container id. So let me just use this. So I'm just stopping it based on the container id. I'm just stopping the nginx2 here. So it has stopped. Let us check whether it is stopped or not using docker ps. You can see this is not coming now, only Nginx is there. So let us see here, this is port 1000. Let us see if it is, see it has stopped now. We can also start it again, for example using the same thing, like let's say docker start Nginx 2, right? This is the name of the container which we can provide, and we can again start it. See, this is started again. This is started with the new container ID. Let us check if it is coming up here. Yes, this is coming up. Can we restart it? So restart means that we have to start and stop again. So for that purpose, we can use docker restart the Nginx 2. Okay, so let us do this. So this is actually starting and this is stopping and starting again. So let us check this again. So you can see the container ID is the same, but it has just restarted it. And you can see here, it remains the same here. We can also check the logs of the container using docker logs, and you can just mention the name of the container or the container ID, and you can check. You can see this is coming in this manner. You can check all the logs this manner. If you want it in the tail mode, you can do -f, and you will see that all the logs in this manner. Okay, now you can also see if the docker, all the containers which are not being used, for example, these are all the containers available. Let's say I stop this container. Okay, and do docker ps. Only the running containers are being seen here. To check all the containers whether they are stopped or running, you can do -a. Here we will see all the containers whether they are started or stopped or running. For example, here it is exited already, so it will show all the containers which are there. So how do you delete the containers? You can delete the containers using rm command. And if it to delete the container, it has to be stopped first. So since this container Nginx is already stopped, so we can just remove it. It will not show an error. See, this is removed, and if I do again check whether all the containers, you can see earlier the container was there, so the container is deleted now. To actually remove the container which is already there, which is running, for that we have to use something which is called as docker rm -f, and then we can just mention the name of the container. So this is going to remove the running container. Okay, so ideally, if you don't specify this -f flag, it is not going to. So if I just try to remove this without using f flag, okay, so it is going to give me an error that this container is already running. So you cannot remove it. You have to stop the container before removing it. So you have to do a force remove here. So what we can do here is you can do -f, and you can just have to remove it. So now we can see we don't have any Docker containers available right now. Okay, there is one more command which I wanted to discuss. So this is the list of commands which we have studied, that Docker PS is going to list all the running containers. It's going to show all the fields here, the metadata, and to list all the containers including running and stop containers, we can use Docker PSA. You can stop the container using this docker stop. You can start the container using docker start. You can restart the container, which is nothing but stopping it and starting again. Docker logs can be used to view the container logs, whether if you want to find any issues, whether the app has crashed or service not responding, so you can use this. Okay, also if you want to enter the container, right? So for example, let us run it again. Okay, so let us run this again on, okay, let us run this Nginx, and let us run this on port 9000. Okay, so the container is running. So let's say if you want to go in the bash mode, we have to see all the files within the container, so we can use this command. Okay, docker exe minus it. Then we have to mention the name of the container, and then mention the whether we want the bash mode or the shell mode, right? So let us mention the name of it, nginx, and let us go for SSL. You can see we have entered the container here. You can see the list of all the files here. You can see all the files within the container here. So we have to go into home, or so this is, so also if we go to the Docker desktop here, we see the which of the container is running here. You can see what are the images used and what are the container running here. So we can just enter here also, and we can see with the logs here. We can inspect the logs here. So you can see the logs here and all the files which are there within the container, okay, which we saw by this command here, right? By entering using the executing exe command. So you can also go inside this way also, and yeah, any stats regarding the container which you want to study, like what are the CPU utilization or the memory utilization, we can also go from here. This is also called as an inspect command. We can get the metadata of that specific container, what is the state of the container, and whether what volumes are being used here, or the port binding, all the information we can use. So we can, okay, to exit this, we can exit it this way. Okay, it has exited. So let's say we want to do an inspect of that container which we are running. So let's inspect this container which you're already running. So the data which it is shown here, right? It is the same which is present here in the Docker desktop, right? So what is state of it? What is the image used? And what is the network config? What is the network mode? What are the port bindings here? And if at all any volumes are being used. So all the metadata is being shown here in this Docker desktop using. So it's the same command. Docker. You can use Docker inspect here to get the metadata of that specific container. So that is what to inspect the full container details, right? Whether the IP address, volumes, environment variables, network details. This mostly used for debugging. Okay. So you also seen how do we remove the container using remove command, and we also seen that it is only if the container is stopped we can remove it. To forcefully remove any running container, we can use this rm command, and we can also use this command like to remove all the stopped containers at one go instead of removing one by one. So you can use docker container prune. So let's say, so right now we don't have only one container here. Okay, so let us stop this first, and okay, we have stopped it. So but we can see the since this docker is container is stopped, okay, it is still present here. So we can use docker prune container, or is the other way around? Okay, it's other way around. So it's docker container first, and we have to prune. So it is going to ask you whether you want to remove all the stop containers. You mention UI, then it's going to remove all the containers. Then you can see here everything is gone, but we still have the image. All the containers are deleted. So we can also check the status of any resource usage which we already saw using Docker stats. I think that's it. I hope this tutorial was very helpful to you in understanding Docker containers. Thank you.